allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'm just going to move to the podium. We'd like to take this opportunity tonight to recognize a few individuals for their service to our community. At the last town meeting, we were proud to present senatorial citations to several individuals for their years of service to the town. These individuals were Michael Phelan and Edward Colley. This evening, we would like to present 2 additional senatorial citations and certificates of appreciation from the town for other individuals. The first tonight, a senatorial citation for years of service and a town citation certificate of appreciation for Mr. John Furman.
You're going to make them come up here, huh?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything you've done.
Oh, thank
Great
you.
job.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you, John.
Speech.
Do you want to make...
Any parting words of wisdom, John?
No, I just enjoyed my time on the planning board. It's quite an experience, and just sorry I couldn't keep going with it. But good bunch of individuals on the board. I enjoyed working with all of them. So. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We have a town certificate of appreciation for Mr. Richard Frary. I don't think that anyone else is here tonight, but for Mr. Arthur Lawrence, a town certificate of appreciation for all of his hard work in Town Hall. For Easthampton Savings Bank, a town certificate of appreciation for their generous donations of furniture to the Town Hall building. And also, we have one for Mr. Todd J. Ross, and I'd like to read this letter. The actions of Todd J. Ross go far beyond the reasonable expectations the town places on its employees. Todd has the training and background so as when he found himself in a position to react to the emergency events unfolding, he did so without hesitating. Had he not taken the quick, decisive action he did, the town would have more than likely suffered the loss of a town pickup truck, the town salt shed, and would have been further plagued by dealing with the environmental concerns of the salt from the salt shed washed into the surrounding environment. The fire department had tried to access the vehicle involved in flames inside the salt shed, but we found it locked. Todd had the key and averted a potential tragedy. Todd's quick actions deserve high praise from the town. The fire department already holds Todd in high esteem, not only thankful for his years of service, but more so we are thankful for the bit of firefighter that stays in your blood as Todd worked as part of our team that day to prevent further destruction. We're proud of Todd and his actions. We understand since much of the fire department and ambulance service is comprised of local folks that pull together for others in their time of need, and towards this end, Todd J. Rise is a shining example. Thank you, Chief Workman. So we'd like to recognize Todd for all his hard work over there with the fire at the fire department. But he's not here, so thank you. Can you pass those down?
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute. Not this. The next item on the agenda is the annual review of the town accountant. This was previously scheduled, but we had to reschedule. The fire chief review was also for the same night, but that has been rescheduled to Thursday, August 13th at 5:30. In being consistent with last year, we'll begin with each item. I'll read the parameter, and each Board of Select member will have an opportunity to comment and feedback. In front of you have the ones that were submitted. If you have yours and wasn't submitted, if you would read from those, that would be helpful.
And you should have Charlie's before you as well.
I think everyone has a copy of, do I only have a copy of Charlie's? Only me.
What are the ones that were submitted?
Did you make a copy of everyone's or no?
I don't have everyone's. I only had Charlie's before 4 o'clock.
Okay. So let's start. The first item is job performance. This performs responsibilities appropriate for, oh, we're talking about Vicky, sorry.
Are these copies or originals?
This is Vicky, the town accountant's job performance evaluation. Sorry, she's sitting right in the front row.
So there's a copy?
Yes.
Are you ready? Is everybody ready? So the first is job performance. This says that Vicki will perform responsibilities as appropriate for the position. Work performance results in consistently high quality and quantity of professional work. So last year, and if you want to change the way we do things at this point, everybody kind of went through and said what they thought. I guess that would be the most appropriate way to handle this at this point. Do you want to start, John, or do you want me to start?
I'll be glad to.
Go ahead.
Okay. I guess, in looking across the board, I'm probably the one that was here when she was hired. She came from the school system, if I remember correctly, right? Okay. And no municipal experience. So I think over the years, and this is for a small period of time, but over the years, I've just seen her learn the process, which I think was very difficult. And, as you stumbled through it as a learning curve, I think where you are now is, I gave you exceeds expectations, because I think where you are now, you've picked up a lot, you've learned a lot, you've been in the fire, and you've come out of it, I think, very well. When I was on the finance committee, you always supplied information in a timely manner. The reports have gotten better over the years. So I think you look to improve as you go along, and as you learn, you pass it along. So I think you've been doing a nice job on the performance.
Do you write these regularly?
Yes.
I agree with what John's saying, especially over last year. You're trying to write this year as opposed to last year, and I would say that your job performance is excellent. I wrote that you perform your duties daily, you meet the expectations, you're available after regular working hours, because you're sitting right there right now. Without hesitation, you're able to discuss and help financial conversations when needed. When I need something as the lunch lady, you have the answer. When I need something as the Board of Selectmen, you have the answer, and I've heard the same from others in town.
Good evening. Regarding job performance, I interviewed Vicki, and I found that she responds accurately to accounting inquiries and consistently adheres to the UMass Uniform Municipal Accounting System, all the while maintaining a professional work ethic. And I found her easy to work with, and accurate, and open to new ideas.
Well, by the time it gets on here, I don't have a whole lot to
Well, we're
say
going to
because
start
you've
with you
covered
at
everything.
the next one starts with you.
So I only met Vicki in October when I started, but I gave you a 3 because I feel that you meet the expectations the amount of times that I come in contact with you. I think you have all my answers when I come to you, and if you don't, you get back to me in a timely fashion, and I appreciate that.
Do you want to pipe in at any point? Let us know if you agree or disagree, or have you just ready to take? Okay.
If there's anything that I need to improve upon, you'll tell me, and we'll just go from
Fair enough. So the next section is job knowledge. Demonstrates clear understanding of job responsibilities, has the necessary skills and knowledge required for the position, has a clear understanding of procedural and departmental requirements, ability to perform a wide variety of job-related tasks, keeps current with new requirements of the professional position and with developments in the relevant field. Shannon, we can start with you.
I did a meets expectations, because when I have a question, you have an answer. And I don't have a whole lot of questions for you, but when I do, you answer them, and you're quite prompt about it, and I appreciate that.
Okay, I wrote, Vicki excels in many accounting tasks, including reconciliation, bill paying, and analyzing financial data, trends to identify and eradicate wayward expenditures. She also refers to Department of Revenue alerts and updates from the common accounting practices administered by the UMass, the Uniform Municipal Accounting System.
So I just wanted to touch briefly on the additional training part. Generally, not generally, often I come in and you're away at a training, so we know that you're keeping up to date with whatever information is out there and relevant that you need to know. And I also think it's important to know that Vicki's position has been funded this year to get the actual certification that was in the goal last year. Is that right? So the job knowledge is moving right along. I think you're picking up on everything that you need to know and keeping up with the job and the responsibilities.
My turn. I wrote, has gained a great deal of experience since hired, has always been someone that wants to gain knowledge to do a better job. And I gave you exceeds expectations. Do I think you know everything? Of course not. None of us know everything, but I think you go after it, and if we ask you a question, you go find out the results, and then you come back to us. And from my point of view, I'd rather somebody do that than lie to you and make up an answer, you know? I don't know it, I'll go get it, and I'll come back to you. So I think you've done that right along. And I think you've gained a lot of knowledge. I'll probably say it later on, gained a lot of knowledge in the budget process. You really helped out this past year. So I think that's been a great thing.
Yeah, whatever, not everything has come across my desk yet,
Yeah.
so if I haven't learned it, then you'll have to ask those questions.
Yep.
Because, I'm not too fond of that, I don't know, kind of answer, so.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but I'll find you the answer.
Yeah.
Or I'll find the answer for myself.
Personnel management?
Yep.
I have limited information on how you manage Joyce, but everything I've seen and heard, I think you're doing a fine job, but it's just limited. I don't see you day to day, so I have no negatives about that.
So some of the feedback that I've gotten from others is that there seems to be a lack of oversight over Joyce, or lack of management, and I don't mean to say, of your assistant, I guess would be a more appropriate thing to say. And so trying to get information about what that actually means from people is a little harder than it seems. So, someone will say, well, I think she needs to oversee Joyce, and you say why or how, but there's nothing specific, right? And so I guess what I would say at this point is, whatever isn't happening, maybe and you could work on. Whatever is happening, you could do it a little more forcefully, I'm not quite sure, but as I've said in the past to other department heads, in order to effectively manage the people that work in your office, you need to know exactly what they do and how they do it. So the only example that I had was that if your assistant is in the office, sometimes you have to wait for information that person has. So I would hope that you know exactly what that person does and how to do it, so that you're able to pick up those pieces if she's not in the office at that moment.
I wrote, Vicar promotes an open-minded, stress-free environment, acknowledging and proficiently responding to all job requirements in a timely manner. I'm not aware of any other management deficiencies in your department.
Once again, a 3. I'm in the town hall, so I see you and I see Joyce. And I think that we had a conversation about that, and Joyce does her job, and you do oversee her. I see that you do communicate with her, and I think you do a good job within your department. And I do think you know what's going on. And if you have a question, I think you would seek out the answer to make sure things are going in an efficient fashion.
I mean, we don't always see eye to eye, but we have those discussions, and, how should we do this, how should we not do this? Maybe you should have did this a little differently, and so we do have those conversations and kind of move on from there. She knows my opinion on, if someone brings something to my attention and says, hey, I don't really like how this was done or whatever, and so we have those conversations and we kind of just try to do better the next time.
The next item is fiscal management. I think you do a great job managing the budget that you're given from the town. I think probably you're one of 2 or only departments that, actually cuts particular areas when you need to stay within your budget. I think you do a great job keeping the Board of Selectmen updated, especially on end-of-year transfers and where the money came from, why they're short, where it needs to go, and how you got there. One thing that I would like to see is an update at our meetings about remedying past year's deficiencies and audits. So just an update occasionally. I mean, we ask for them, we get them, but maybe just a little more proactive approach to, here's what the audit said and here's where we're at this point. Just to keep us more apprised, rather than waiting until the end of the year when a new audit comes up and we start over again and we say, where did we end last year? But your fiscal management in your department is great.
Yeah, and I looked at it it says submission of capital operating budgets. I looked at it last year as how you interacted with the budget process, which I think, again, was probably our best year for the budget process, where you were involved with Donna and Heather and the Finance Committee and all that. So I think you were really part of a team, which worked out very well. I get the reports on a timely manner, monthly manner, very few errors. So I think on the fiscal management, that part of it. The budget side, I don't, your budget is a small budget, you manage it, and
$650
you can't do much with it. But on the budget process, which I think is part of fiscal management. I think you stood out on that this past year.
Sure.
Okay. Operating budgets and submission of capital deadlines are adhered to, as are cost savings measures such as maintaining equipment, recycling paper, and utilizing digital formats on a daily basis.
A 3, because I think you're still meeting expectations. I can't really say that I've worked that much with you on the finance part of it. We did for a short while. I worked on the finance team with you, and I thought that you had a lot of information with you. You were very well prepared when we had those meetings, and I thought that was quite the asset to those meetings.
Okay. Next, we have time management. I mean, we're not in the building every day with you, but generally when we need something or ask for something, we get it, which would lead me to believe that you're managing your time well. You attend department head meetings as well as other meetings which require your attention and get your work done in your office all at the same time. And you prioritize your schedules and duties so that the business of the town is conducted in a professional and efficient way.
What she says, I'm sure, is accurate, but I put not enough interaction to know. I mean, like I said, when we need something, you're here. The reports are on time, but day to day, I didn't have enough, so I didn't want to give you an unfair evaluation because I really don't know.
Prioritizes and organizes departments. Schedules and reports are completed daily, and each town department has adequate access to budgeted funds and transfers.
I do work with you on a daily basis, and I think that you're very timely with the information that I ask you to get for me when I need it. It's not very often, but when I do, you're very prompt.
I think the tough part about that is that there's a lot of information I have to wait for other people to finish first before they give me. And so I have to wait for them to give it to me before I can actually do my process. So that's the part that, you struggle with trying to, be like, hey, can I get this from you? Yeah, okay. A few weeks later, can I get this from you? When you're trying to do reconciliations, you're waiting on other people, which is always the nature of accounting, to wait for other people to give you information before you can actually do something with it. So that part is, I don't say tough to manage, but.
You don't want to feel like you're harping.
Well, exactly. And so, they're trying to do their job the best that they can, but I can't do mine
Without them.
So
Right.
certain things might take a little longer than I would like them to, but, I got to give people the time to do their job first.
Right. The next section is communication, and there's a whole bunch of stuff encompassed here, and I don't disagree with any of it. I think that you do great. The only thing I would ask, at the end of it, it says provides written notification to the Board of Selectmen regarding planned absences and verbal notification of unplanned absences. I don't know that necessarily each individual one of us needs to know when you're absent, but it would be helpful if, the town administrator at least know that you weren't going to be in or you were going on vacation, as well as every other department head. I'm not sure whether that's happening or not, but I wanted to just reiterate it.
There's no process where the town department heads let the town administrator know?
I think it's just,
I mean, that would make sense to have that as a process with all department heads.
not that I'm aware of, there's not a formal process that says, here's a paper that says I'm going to be on vacation. It's coming up because it's Vicki's evaluation, but I think,
Oh, not just her then, yeah.
Right.
Is that something we can put on a,
Well, most times, it depends on, you try to avoid the micromanagement as much as possible, but I think most times when departments, including Vicki, is going to be out for vacation or whatever, I know about it, and it's really helpful. What it comes down to is just knowing that, for instance, if I was going to be out for more than a day or two and people were going to need purchase orders or something substantial for my office, it's good for them to know that I'm going to be away so they can get it in ahead of time or afterwards. But it's also helpful with certain things, if someone's going to be out, to know who to report to or who to question or ask or go to for help for certain things.
yeah, I know from my point of view, I think I've got come quickly, 6 or 8 managers. And we have a calendar that just, when somebody's out, it's just on the calendar for pre-planned absences, or if they call in sick, we'll throw out there on sick. Or when I go on vacation, I'll send an email to my manager saying, I'm out this time, this person's in charge. And it's just a courtesy to let people know what's going on. Not trying to track somebody, just in case there's an issue, you can quickly say, oh, they're out this week, I go to the second in command. That might be a process we want to put in place for FYI for everybody.
Right.
Okay, so we had communication. I put communicates well, participates in Board of Selectmen meetings when required. I put conducts herself professionally because I think this past year or so, there's been opportunities where if it was me, probably I wouldn't have acted as nice as you have with adverse, comments coming at you. I think you've handled everything professionally. You deal with it in a professional manner, and you don't let personal feelings get in. So, I wanted to give you credit for that.
Okay, I didn't address the communication with, regarding her employment and communicating with the town administrator. It was more of Vicki adequately responds to queries from the public at town meetings, Board of Selectmen meetings, and in the Finance Committee meetings, and has professionally communicated with her assistant accountant regarding paying town warrants and other daily accounting responsibilities.
And that's where mine was. It was more communicating within the town and giving everybody the accurate information in a timely fashion.
The next is teamwork. I wrote that Vicki has the town's best financial interest in mind when working. She maintains a good working attitude and relationship with town employees. My one critique would be that sometimes you can tell when you're frustrated with a situation, and so it can be perceived one way, and it can be perceived another way. And so I know that my frustration is often visible, and probably that your frustration may be visible sometimes. So something that you and I can both work on. And I wrote that you interact effectively with public and overall have excellent teamwork skills.
I put you work well with other department heads, and you were very helpful in the fiscal year budget process and the presentation, which to me was probably the biggest teamwork project we had this last year.
Yeah. Yep.
I wrote, Vicki strives to come to a consensus with employees and other department heads in a respectful and consistent manner.
I would say in a team setting, I worked with you at the finance team meetings that we had, and I thought you were quite the team player, bringing in all the information, and then when you didn't have it, you gathered it. So I think you work well as a team.
The next is the problem-solving area. As an example, I think Vicki does great at problem-solving. There was an issue troubleshooting the generator problem at the police station last week. I think she had some pretty reasonable solutions to that problem and was able to work well with Heather to get to a solution on that. So I think you're doing great.
I put you met all my expectations. You had very few errors, but if you did have an error, you'd follow up and find out what the issue was and bring up a solution or suggest an alternate solution.
Regarding problem solving, she worked to re-educate and prevent problems with department heads and the public before issues become divisive or arduous.
For me, I had a problem understanding the accounts when we were discussing for the reval. And that, to me, was good because we both researched that, and you had gotten back to me on information, and I had provided it for you, and together we problem solved, and I thought you were a big help on that.
Next section is creativity and initiative. I wrote that Vicki's willing to implement changes townwide even when she may not agree with them 100%. For example, the purchase order system that's been going back and forth between departments and us over the last few months. And she always has ideas on how to solve problems and is available to help departments without any problem. Actually, I was just talking to Randall, and he wanted me to make sure that you knew that every time he goes in there, Vicky is there and able to help him without any hesitation.
I have a theme with this whole evaluation apparently here. I put help to develop and assist with the improved fiscal year 15 budget process. You bring up new ideas to improve the process, and you bring them to the board.
If
To
you
me
put
that-
all our comments together in one
Well, I think we were
report.
looking at this from little different angles, but it's good to put them all together.
Regarding above and beyond, she has worked tirelessly with the town administrator, town treasurer, and the finance team to ensure that the town budget was a resounding success, given the limited resources provided.
That sounds like something I would say.
I have nothing more to add on that one.
Okay. So the other part about the above and beyond, which was the next group, was, I think the budget process is different this year. I think it's the best that it's maybe ever been that I've seen. I think that the whole team and all the committees involved worked tirelessly to make it a really great budget. But you were at every one of those meetings, no matter what time, where it was, with the information, and I really felt like you went above and beyond in the budget process this year. Sorry.
That's okay, because I have a little different slant. I didn't put anything above and beyond, because all what you're talking about, I think, is part of the job, and you did a nice job of it. We've had people in the past who maybe don't go up to the top level of their job and don't do these things. So, I didn't put anything in above and beyond, because I thought you did a great job, but that was part of your job.
Is that everybody? So, I think that there's one last part here, which is the individual goal, but before we go into that, I think it's hard to sit here for us, and I say this every year, and tell people who you don't work with every single day, all day long, what they're doing wrong. So maybe the more important part of this whole evaluation is the goal, because it's something that we're expecting from the person next year and that they're expecting of themselves in the following year. So one of the goals that we had last year was for you to become the certified accountant, and I don't think that happened, but because of the budget, right? Is that true?
I guess it was a combination of, I had $650 in my budget, and to take the class and kind of go through all that is, is a little bit more money. And it's also the preparation piece. It's a lot of, when you work with our accounting system, it does a lot of behind the scenes, not to get too technical, control accounts, and so say you do a budget transfer, and you do it from this account to this account. Well, there's all these other accounts behind the scenes that the system automatically does. When you take that test, you have to know them all by heart. And so that's kind of scary to think that you're going to fail. But then, you talk to people when you go to the accounting class at UMass, and half of them fail the first time anyway, because the law piece and just knowing those accounts off the top of your head, because you don't have a manual to, I can cheat now if I don't know something. I can look at the book and say, oh yeah, this is
I
where
don't
it's
think
supposed to go, or
cheating's the
how
word
to.
you meant, but
No, but I mean, just, like not do it from memory.
It's an
and
open
actually
book
look
test.
in the
Yeah.
manual and figure out how to account for it and where to put the money in the right buckets and
Yeah.
stuff. There you don't have that, and it's scary to think about that. And so I wasn't mentally prepared last year I didn't mentally prepare myself enough to do that. And, no one wants to fail, obviously, but there's always that possibility, so.
Did you say CPA or CMA? Or?
No, it's just a Mass Municipal certificate, Mass Municipal Accountant
Okay. Yeah.
certificate, I think it's called, so.
So now that the money's in your budget this year, is there maybe a time frame that we're looking at to take that class? And the
It's
test?
in March.
It's in March.
Well, no, the test is in March.
Okay, so
So it'll be in March, when they have the accountant school, they have review for the first 3 days, and then the second half of that third day is people sit there for 3 hours and take the test.
So who puts it on?
Mass Municipal Accountants.
They don't bring somebody
Association.
in, they actually,
Yeah, they actually give you the test, and they give you samples of it. But this one class that's in Needham, he goes over, he has old tests, and that's all you do for 6 weeks is handwrite journal entries over and over and over and over, because that's what the test is, and so.
yeah, and nowadays, you've got resources available, so taking a test where you don't have any is so,
Well, yeah, and the law piece
Real
too
life.
is the tough part, is what people said, so.
yeah.
So there's two other parts of, so that's last year's goal I just wanted to address. And then this year going forward, one thing that is a continuous conversation between the Finance Committee and ourselves and your office is the grants and what's out there and what do we have going on and where is it all and how do we get the information and how do we populate it all into one place. So I'm hoping that maybe one of the goals that we can have for this following year is to actually come up with a comprehensive list of what are the grants that the town has going on, what departments are they from, how much are they for, how long are they good for. I'm saying all this and it sounds like a really big project, but perhaps a really good goal to work on. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I mean, we definitely need to have a handle on that, and unless, if someone doesn't come to me and say, hey, I need a new account because I got this grant, then I don't know about it.
So when money comes in from a grant, who finds out about that first?
Well, usually Donna will get, it'll show up, they'll either turn it over in a turnover, or it will come through the vendor web, if it's a state grant, and so she'll get, you know, she looks on the screenshot and it will say it comes from such and such, and then it'll be, where do you want me to put it? And I'll be like, well, I don't know, because I don't know about it, and so then you have to try and get the information, and so.
So some kind of list would be helpful at some point.
And if it's a reoccurring, and we get it every year, then it just comes in and Donna knows where to put it and the money just kind of shows up. But if I didn't have that information to begin with, then I don't know.
So it could be a teamwork project.
I don't know how long it's for. I don't know what the parameters are in order to spend on it. You know, every grant has a start and a begin. Sometimes you have to return the funds if you don't use it. It has certain criteria of what you can use the funds for. But when you apply for them, whether it's competitive or it's reoccurring, then, you know, you automatically get it every year, but you still have to submit the paperwork. Like you can't, they're not going to just, state's not going to just give it to you. You have to fill out all the requirements and tell them what they're going to use it for and make sure that's okay with them first. And so if you don't have any of that information, then.
Do you feel like me asking you to get that list together is better suited for another department or person, or do you think that that's a reasonable goal?
No, I think that's reasonable, you know, because again, we have accounts in the special revenue fund, which is most of where the grants, you know, if there's grants, or like Randall got the wrap for the pothole money last year and this year, that kind of thing, where I didn't have the information. I had the information on the one for this year, but there was an email that had gone around to say, yes, you could buy a hot box. And I was like, well, I don't know that you can buy a hot box with this, because I had the information so I could check.
Right.
And then Randall said, no, I got permission. Here's the information for the permission. So, you know, I those types of things, there's a lot of those that are in there that would be good to have that information, obviously.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd like to when I asked Vicki about her goals, she said she will be obtaining her Massachusetts accounting certification in March and is actively studying the MGL, Massachusetts General Laws, pertaining to accounting procedures. So that's another thing.
That's the first part that we, from
Yeah.
last year, and so it's just going to have to carry over to this year. So
Right.
it's that same, that's the same.
So you're actively, you know, learning more every day.
Well, yeah, you have to, so.
Does anyone else have anything to add to the goal section?
Yeah, I just put to continue to work for improved ways to collect and share financial information with the department heads, town administrator, and board of selectmen. One of them is grants. I think there's information out there that's kind of floating around that, as you see it, if you could be the, you know, the key point person for that and get it out.
Shannon, did you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add.
Vicki, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I guess that one of the only things that we're going to work on in the end of this month is getting our fixed assets up and running. The auditors are coming in to help us, you know, comply with some general accounting principles, and we're going to have them help us compile our fixed assets, hopefully put them into software so that we can keep track of them properly and account for them money-wise properly. So that's something that will get done in the next, the next couple of months. So.
Very good.
I got two questions.
Sure.
How long have you been here now? More than one
Only
hand?
3 years.
How many?
More
Three.
than one hand.
Only three?
Yeah, I came in August of 2012.
Is your job description current?
I am working on that right now. I have the job description that Charlie sent me that I guess was in a folder here somewhere that I didn't know existed. And then I went on and asked other communities if they could send me theirs to kind of meld them together to see how they worded things and certain things that they did, you know. And so I'm almost done with that, and I'll send it.
I guess I'm more concerned with other activities
back.
that you're doing, major activities that aren't reflected in your job description,
Yes.
should be, okay. So you're going through the process.
Yeah, like we have an annual audit. We didn't have an annual audit before.
Right, okay.
Right.
That's important to keep them
Budget
updated.
process is all different. The payroll process is a little different. I mean, we're not responsible for the main payroll piece, and there's a lot of things that we're doing as a town that we didn't do 5 years ago.
How much time does the annual audit take you? I mean, how much to get ready for them?
Well, there's a lot of prep work involved, so like the auditors will send me information a couple months ahead of time to gather all that information and send to them what I can. Some of that is stuff that I work on when I close the books, schedules that I send to Department of Revenue, like when I go to get free cash certified, I have about 10 different Excel spreadsheets analysis that I have to do.
Wow.
That they do free cash from, and so they want those, which they're already done, but then there's also all the reconciliations of all the accounts with, you know, the treasurer's office, the school, with the assessor's office, that kind of thing. So you try to get most of that's already done, but then they want other things, and when you give them that information, then they come back with you with their analysis, and it's like, well, you know, why was the budget less than last year? Why did you spend more than the budget? And so you have to go through all that. And so I try to do much of that before they get here, but they spend 2 weeks here, and then it's probably another month, you know, it's probably like 6 weeks, 2 months maybe that year. And then after it's done, there's still things when they go back to their office. So it's maybe like 3 months total before everything's said and done, so, which is not uncommon.
And I guess my last question is there anything that we can do more to help you, or we're not doing what you want to see?
No, I think one of the other goals that I would like to kind of keep you more up to date in terms of what people are spending money on, in terms of, you know, I can't tell a department head technically that, well, you can't spend that money in that, but just to make you aware of, well, did you know we spent this on this, this, and this? Just because you don't, I mean, I don't know how, if you read every line of every invoice that comes through here, you don't really have that time at this meeting right here, you know what I mean? But at least if I can keep you up to date or give you a clue as to, hey, you know, this is kind of concerning to me. I can't really do anything too much about it, but this is what, you know, this is what I see, so.
Yeah. You should be our eyes on the financial end of it.
Yeah, and so I got to do a better job of that for sure.
Okay, good, thanks.
Very good. All right, well, thank you, Vicki, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your annual evaluation is complete. We will move on to, go ahead.
No,
I'm good. To the town administrator report.
If you want to skip to open time for the public, because there's a few folks here, and Tom Quinlan has stepped in for one of them.
Okay, I'll move to open time for the public. Anyone who'd like to speak could take the podium.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first? Or you want to just listen?
Actually, I'd like to see. I understand email has some concerns. I understand that Mr. Email has some concerns, but I would request that before we discuss it together, we go into executive session, which I believe Heather has set up for after the meeting.
Is it on our agenda for executive session?
It is. It was modified later this afternoon when it came to my attention that it was going to be a need.
Okay, so, Mr. Umel, if you don't mind, we can go into executive session at the end of our meeting to probably discuss whatever it is that you're here to discuss, if that's acceptable. Yes, to the board? Yes? Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone else for open time for the public? Seeing none, Heather, town administrator report?
All right, so we have a couple things going on. The first one, it's later on the agenda, but I figure if we address it now, If there's any additional questions, we can touch base with it later. But this has been a big issue for us for the past couple weeks, and a couple of reasons that aren't as obvious. So we have a generator over at the police station. It is our backup supply source for the police station. It's a Generac, bought in 2007 or 2007 model. On approximately July 20th, which was a Monday, in the evening, part of the town, including the police station, lost power. The police station was without phones, they were without computers, and they were without radios for 45 minutes during this process. 911 did have a backup battery, but the rest of our entire dispatch that controls the entire town, fire station, police, EMS, completely dead in the water. The police station, giving them lots of credit on this one, they did try everything they could think of. They called Lieutenant Goyette. He came over, took a look at it, tried to get it up manually, wasn't kicking over for the power source. We then they called over to Randall from the highway department. He came over, took a look at it. They then called Blanchard and Daly, and they came and took a look, to which point they finally found out it was beyond something they could handle. The next day, we actually had Elm Electrical there, and they realized that it had to do with the winding mechanism in the alternator that just stopped working. They said it wasn't something you pick up on regular maintenance, it's something that sometimes just fails. We're now at that point where we need to decide, what do we do at this moment? Because if we have a thunderstorm tonight, lose power, we're going to be without. What do we do? So we actually spoke with Don Snyder, who's our emergency management director, and he was able to contact the local down in Westfield, which he had to go through several phone calls and phone tag to get to in order to bring up the backup emergency generator from Westfield. He worked with Randall. They brought it up that evening. They weren't able to get it hooked up till the next day, and then they discovered that the backup generator, which was absolutely brand new, didn't work. So a few days later, they finally got that repaired. In the meantime, here's the dilemma. We had to decide whether or not we were going to purchase the part, which was going to cost us approximately $1,200 plus labor, and the approximate time of having the part arrive is 2 weeks. In addition to that, they recommended, after looking at it further, that in a second part, so the entire alternator be replaced, which brings a total up to $2,500 plus labor. And the second part, unknown time of delivery. The next issue is the fact that we do not know how long we will have this backup generator from Westfield. If there's an emergency that trumps ours, we lose. In the meantime, as long as everything's good, knock on wood, we're okay. If we were to have to rent a backup generator, we're looking at $725 a week, plus hookup costs. So it can get rather pricey. And in addition, Westfield would like their generator back at some point. So we only have this for such a period of time we needed to make a decision. I actually sat down with Vicki last week in her office, and we went over what is more fiscally responsible for the town, to pay $2,500 plus to replace pieces to 2007, which will give us at least a year warranty on the one piece, but if anything else breaks, we're going to have trouble. Or at that point, we're starting to get up to half the cost of what a new generator is.
About $5,000?
A new generator is going to be $12,000 plus. But if we're already paying almost $5,000 for the repairs for something we're getting unknown lifespan of, it made more sense to look in purchasing a new one. Now, usually we'd say, well, let's wait till October special town meeting and go through capital and do this. Problem is, we can't wait that long. We needed to make a decision. So we met with Finance Committee last night. We discussed it, because the other problem you run into, I don't have an account I can pull from for $15,000. I don't have a single account with that kind of funds in it that would be qualified to utilize. So we ended up looking at using the building maintenance account for Town Hall, the police station, which had $10,000 in it, and then getting a transfer up to $7,000 from Finance Reserve. And that's what it's there for, emergency purposes. And we all agreed this constituted an emergency. So that's where we are right now. We're still working on getting a couple bids, but we're hoping to have it resolved by the end of the week, and it takes about 24, 48 hours to get the new generator and then hooked up.
We're going to trade in the old one, or?
I don't think, the problem with the old one is we can't even find parts for it. So I don't think it's really got a trade-in value, and a lot of distribution places I've spoken to aren't really a fan of Generac, and most of them don't sell them.
What are we going to do with it? Is it capital?
One of the thoughts is that we could, at some point after a special town meeting, is ask capital to fund those extra pieces, replace it, and then we could use the generator here while it lasts. We could use the generator at the highway department. There are some options, but the problem is, what are you going to, which one's the better way to go for the time being?
We're not just giving it to somebody. Okay.
No. All right, any questions on generator? Because that resolves, we don't have to talk about that later now. Isn't that exciting? All right, so that brings up the next issue, which is maintenance and the concept of preventive maintenance and the like. One of the things with the building we have here is we've yet to been able to put our fingers on a preventive maintenance schedule. There's no place that I can tell you when my boilers last had parts changed, when the HVAC system had this or that, unless I've been here for changes, can't tell you they happened. One of the problems we're getting into is my department is getting overwhelmed with doing building maintenance. I don't have a degree in mechanical engineering. I don't have expertise of years of maintaining a building to talk the HVAC system, the boilers, the lighting, when the doors need to be changed, if the septic system needs to be pumped, etc. I think it's very important to look at where the town is going and where the municipality is going as far as professionalism and also finding someone who's able to upkeep these buildings. One of the concerns at the last town meeting and even at the election was, how are we going to maintain a new building? Well, we need to, I think, show the town that we can maintain what we have now. And I think the problem is we do band-aiding approach. So if it's broken, we call. If it's not broken, we don't look at it because we don't even know anything about it to look at it. I would like to ask that the board consider putting 2 Board of Selectmen members down at a meeting with myself, Randall, and Vicky to sit down and talk about our current maintenance issues, talk about where we're going, the need to have a preventive maintenance schedule for all of our buildings, and even the possibility maybe we need to hire a consultant, put some funds aside from free cash, and get these preventive maintenance things in place. I don't have a problem, and I don't think Randall would either, of being able to implement a preventive maintenance schedule with, it's June 1st, call so-and-so for the HVAC. Here we are with this contract, it has expired, let's look again. I think the problem right now is it's so overwhelming because there's piles and piles of unknown, and we're simply dealing with them as they approach because there's no other direction to go. Just to let folks know, maintenance is not in my job description at all. It doesn't say Heather is the maintainer of all buildings, despite what some folks think. That's not in my job description. It's in Randall's job description, and right now Randall is so overwhelmed that I don't know, even if he wanted to sit down, that he would be able to do this. And I think that's a real concern that we're having as a town, and I think that's something I would like to see addressed with the Board of Selectmen members, myself, Randall, and Vicky, so we can sit down and really figure out where we're going and what we're doing and what we know and what we don't.
Yeah, I've been involved in these before, and probably getting a consultant at this small level we can do to list all the equipment, when the preventive maintenance schedule should be, and organize it so that somebody could take it from there.
Well, even if we had a preventive maintenance schedule, I mean, when we've been basing the budgets for the building maintenance, for the 2 town hall and for this building, for the past couple of years, we've only been basing it based on what we know we paid. But we're not accounting for, oh yeah, we need to change the belts and those, that's $3,000. Oh yeah, we need to, because we don't know until it happens.
But that's something we can get somebody to do and put up there. And do we use electronic calendars of any type here at, to me, and that's what I use, anything like this, I just put where it's supposed to be on the electronic calendar, gives me a notice a day before, whatever I set it, oh, I got to do this. So, once you get it in the system, it'll automatically keep you alerted. New piece of equipment, you add it.
Well, that's what I think we're running into now as a problem, John, is I consider myself a very organized person and very good at coming up with how to look at data, and the problem is I have no idea. I've sat down, I've literally spent about 20 hours in the past 2 weeks on this, and my wheels have burnt out. I'm at a loss.
Yeah. Yeah, we need somebody to help organize it, I think. And once it's organized, like you said, Randall is probably the one to manage it.
So Chair, would it be possible to have 2 Board of Selectmen members assigned to work with me, Randall, and Vicky on this matter?
Before we answer that question, ladies, could you, I think you're all great, but when you're having that side conversation at the same time, then you can hear that and this. So if you could just,
Excuse me. I was thinking, we were talking, and I know we shouldn't have, and pardon us, but do you think it wise if the board asked for bids from consultants that would know how to check the different departments and what they need, and then when the committee gets together, they'll have companies to choose from that can do this job for us?
You can't, because you need to know what we need to have information to give them, for them to bid. I think it's a great idea, and I
Who
think
would
that's
give
where
them
we'd
the
go.
information? Would Randall give them the information?
Well, I think that's the purpose of sitting down with 2 members from the Board of Selectmen, myself, Randall, and Vicky, is to start saying, okay, we've got 16 contracts going here. We have, whatever number of buildings. We can't just say, okay, give us a bid for a consultant. We have to know what we're looking for a consultant. Maybe there's templates somewhere with some information, but we need to have that information before we can get an accurate bid, or we might be putting something out and only having someone come in for, a third of the work we actually need, or maybe we're putting something out and we're asking 3 times the amount of what we need. We won't know until we can sit down and analyze it.
Right.
I think what I'm asking for is the fact that I'm being overwhelmed, and I just feel like alone, I am not competent to analyze 16 different contracts from different things, figuring out which one's current, which one's not on each system, from HVAC to boilers to sprinklers to alarm systems. It just gets too much.
I'm sure that's not your job description, so that's good. I mean, we should sit down and talk about it, absolutely.
so yes, you can ask 2 people to be on your board and set up a meeting for that. Who would like to volunteer?
Probably by default, it's going to be me and somebody else.
I think Charlie's done a lot of work on the building already. I don't think he would be opposed to the notion, since he's already probably has more information on the building than,
Any of us?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the next thing, community compacts with the state. So we talked about this at the last meeting. I actually went to a PVPC roundtable discussion in which folks from the state were there, and there were also numerous municipal officials from this part of the state. And they were discussing, what really the community compact is, and I know we talked about it a little bit last time. They clarified a little bit more and stated it's really the notion that you are implementing a best practice. So for instance, if a best practice that we'd like to implement is to have a 5-year financial plan, they would provide us with the support, the funding if necessary to go forward and do that. You have to give them a couple different ideas. The ones that I've come up with, these are the ones that I think are very important. Financial, yes, is important, but I think we're actually working okay on that. We have a financial policy that's pretty much ready to roll out. We just have to make some more edits to it. We're working on the 5-year financial plan. Basically, we have to sit down, just figure out where the numbers fit in, but otherwise we have the basics for that. The question is, which is going to be the most valuable thing for them to help us with, where we wouldn't be so overwhelmed and having to necessarily go out for consultants on our own. Some examples here that I'd like to look further into, and they're projects I'd like to pursue with the town anyway, are making sure we have job descriptions for all the departments, moving forward with creating classification and a wage chart, which we had once done, I think, years ago and submitted to town meeting. I believe it did not pass, but I think that's something that's very important, and that will help with a lot of confusion and a lot of things going on at times. The status of our enterprise funds and also the configuration of how everything's set up there. Department guides. So one thing that's very important as we have turnover, and we tend to have high turnover here, is that if I leave, the next person stepping in, they have no idea where to begin. They don't have a manual that says, these are the 18 things they're responsible for. Here's a timeline of when they happen throughout the year. You're always starting from scratch, and I think that's very troublesome for our town. Those are some of the major ideas that I'm working on looking into, and pretty much the idea is figuring out which ones would be most beneficial to have the town's resources. I think these are all things we need to do. The question is, which one can the state help us with the most? So we use less resources on our part. Another thing, August 25th. So August 25th is the second meeting of the month of August. We have a lot of things scheduled for that month. It doesn't seem like a lot, but they're going to be timely. So we have the collective bargaining agreement negotiations in executive session with the police department. We have a joint meeting with the water department that was asked to put off till then. And we have a shade tree hearing. My request to the board would be to start the meeting earlier. I would guess or speculate that the shade tree hearing would be about 30 minutes. I know there is opposition, otherwise I would say 5 minutes and we're good. Joint meeting with the water department, I would say, is probably going to be about 30 minutes, and then you're going to want to give a couple hours for the police department. Because that will be our major negotiation session with the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Start early.
What time? I don't go
What are you
back to
thinking of?
school until the next day.
I was hoping for either 5:30 I think would be better than 6, because that way everyone knows what's happening. The major reason I need to know the time is because Mark Reed, representing the estates, needs to be able to advertise in the newspaper the time of the hearing, and I want to give him the start of the meeting.
I was going to say 5:30, but whatever.
Ladies, is there any time that's better for you?
That's fine, 5:30 sounds good.
Yes. Okay, so we'll go with 5:30. And just two last updates. So at the next meeting, there's a lot going on. One of the things is a presentation of the VOPIS system. The gentleman who represents the company, I think it's Brett Lincoln, is his name, will be here that meeting to give you a representation of, he's come out, he's done an assessment of all of our phones and everything else, and he can give you an analysis.
What? VOPIS.
VOPIS? What is it? Voice over Internet Protocol?
VoIP?
Yeah,
VoIP.
VoIPS.
Oh, I thought you said PIS.
No, I don't think so,
yeah.
but it's very possible.
Voice over Internet Protocol.
And then the only other note is our emails have permanently changed at this point, so we are town@southampton.org. All the old ones will no longer work at all.
Okay.
Our contract with Jagfly ended on the 21st, although they always generally take a couple days to get back to us on customer service. Surprisingly, when we sent them an email saying we were not renewing, within 5 minutes, we were disconnected.
Really?
So I was impressed with the customer service, to say the least at that point. All right, I'm all set, Liz.
Are there any select board or liaison reports?
Okay. Hasn't been any meetings for me.
No. On a personal matter, I just would like to address a statement that I made in our last meeting, in which I stated that there are 2 people working in the Board of Health office at this moment, neither which are qualified to do that job. I want you to know that the Board of Health is working very hard to make sure that their office is covered and that the people in that building, in that office, are doing the job. They're both doing the job that they were hired to do, and the Board of Health is working diligently to make sure that the job is fulfilled to 100%. So if I misspoke in any way or upset anyone in any way at my last meeting, that was not my intention. But I think the public does need to know that town-wide there are some issues, and that was my intention at our last meeting. Certainly, my intention was not to upset any particular board. Anybody else? So we will move on. We're past open time for the public. We have, we're postponed. Okay, so we're at the hearings, the hearing policy. Heather has asked us to review some of this to make sure we're all set to go for our poll hearing next week. So I just wanted to go over the hearing policy one line at a time. I'm going to read it. If there's something that you would like to stop and discuss, please let me know. Number 1 is the notice. Verify with town administrator that adequate notice of the hearing has been given to the applicant and to the public. Notice will vary depending on legal requirements, and in no case will less than 48 hours, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, notice be acceptable. Notice of public hearings must be posted outside the clerk's office. The selectmen are prohibited from holding a public hearing for which notice has not been posted. I'll just keep going unless anyone has anything to discuss. Number 2, call the hearing to order. The chair will open the hearing by stating the purpose of the hearing, reading the hearing notice aloud, and explaining the rules to be followed during the hearing. Number 3, introduction of the applicant and the proposed plan or project. The chair will introduce the applicant, and the applicant will state his or her name and address for the record, and then describe the proposal to the board and the public. All speakers shall sign in with name and address. Further, their position as in favor or in opposition. Number 4, questions. No questions will be permitted until after the speaker for the applicant has finished the presentation. Questions will be accepted first from board members and then from the public. Parties in interest, for example, persons entitled by law to notice other than by legal ad, shall be heard first, followed by other persons. All public questions will be addressed through the chair. Questioners will identify themselves, their name and address to the chair, state their questions, and specify to whom they are addressed. Any disagreement with answers is restricted to public participation in favor or in opposition. This is something I think that we really need to hold people accountable for in the audience. I think we tend to have people who speak to one another within the audience, and then it can, people can butt heads, and that meeting maybe will go awry. So if people in the audience, we need to just make sure that they're addressing us and not each other. Public participation in favor. At the conclusion of number 4, the chair will open the hearing to those of the public who wish to speak in favor of the plan or project. Individuals shall state their name and address for the record, and if they are representing someone other than themselves, they shall identify the person whom they are representing. Public participation in opposition. Once members of the public have spoken in favor, the chair will then open the hearing to those members of the public who wish to speak in opposition of the plan. Individuals will have to state their name and address for the record, and if they are representing someone other than themselves, they shall identify the person whom they are representing. Written communications. The chair will have any written communication received from the public read into the record at this time. Any such written communications received after the hearing is closed will not be accepted as part of the hearing record. Close the public participation portion of the hearing. At the conclusion of the reading of the written communication, the chair will then close the public participation portion of the hearing. Board deliberations. Once public input is received via 4, 5, 6, and 7 above, the board will then begin deliberations regarding the proposed project or plan. The board may wish to begin deliberations immediately or continue the hearing to a date and time specific in the future. During the deliberations portion of the hearing, the board may ask to clarify questions of the applicant. The board decision. The final act by the board will be a call for a vote, followed by the board voting in favor or against the plan or project. The board's decision may be based only upon information received during the hearing and matters of common knowledge to the board. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything they'd like to change or add?
Nope.
No. So I need a motion to utilize the rules as amended for the poll hearing on August 11th. Oh, you want me to read the alcohol ones too, Heather, or do you want me to do them separate? Oh, they're the same.
Well, the second one is procedure for dog hearings.
Thanks. So I just want to make sure we're using these rules and following them.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adopt these rules as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are on to the listing of businesses on the town's website. The town has received requests to add individual businesses to the town's website. We used to allow this in the past, and our current website does not have a provision for this. Does the board wish to discuss this?
Oops. There's a new business in town, and I had told them about our old website that did have list businesses, and I thought that it is helpful to new residents if they need any services, and that it would be a good way to introduce people to the business people in Southampton. And I think that we should put these businesses back on our website.
Want me to go?
Sure.
I'm going to disagree, because I think once you start the process, everybody has to be up there. It's going to be time-consuming, I think, to keep changing these, putting them on, taking them off, but also I think it sets us up for some type of liability. I've worked with this at my full-time job, and the best decision was don't put it up there because it causes more problem than it's worth.
My question is, who would maintain it? I mean, who's going to be responsible for
that's
putting it
part of it.
on and taking it off and making sure those businesses haven't closed, or?
Yeah. You get the names wrong.
Who
the
did
people wrong.
prior? Because she said that it was on our old website. Who maintained that?
We had a prior webmaster, John Fitzpatrick, that did it for us. Now we have Art under my guides, but essentially, if Art decided not to tomorrow, it would be on me, and I'm only me.
So are we a part of the Easthampton Chamber of Commerce? Yes. So is it possible that we could put a link on our website to the Easthampton Chamber of Commerce, and then they would be able to access, Southampton residents could access the information for our town through there? At least there's a link on our website to there, which would alleviate the liability to us.
Yeah, a link would be easy because it would update itself once it got updated in Easthampton.
Right. Mrs. Lewis?
Tammy Lunas, 298 College Highway. By going through the Easthampton Chamber of Commerce, then you have businesses that want advertisement and not unsolicited
Business? Do you have to apply to them to have your information put? How does that work? Money?
Chamber
You
of
need
Commerce
money?
have to
Okay.
join, yeah.
Right. So at least it's something. I mean,
But like every business, if they want to be seen and heard, they're going to
They're gonna pay
pay.
for it.
So I think that's a good idea to
Right.
tap into the Easthampton.
right. Okay. Is there any other discussion on this item?
So do we need a motion?
I'm not sure. Go
Before
ahead.
we decide, can we ask the public, if it's the people that have had their businesses on our website all these years, can we ask them how they feel about it?
You can, and my question is just, how is it going to be maintained? Like, who's going to be in charge of making sure that the information on there is correct? I mean, we're already talking with Heather about being overwhelmed dealing with the maintenance, and now we're asking to put something else on her plate when there's, at this point, somewhat of a solution. I mean, you can ask them how they feel, but at that point, you might say, we're really sorry that the website has changed and that your information is no longer on there. However, here's some information for you to get your information listed on the internet. And this isn't, a solution for you that we can offer at this time.
I would think any business you ask is going to say, oh, it's a good idea because it's free advertising. I mean, if we said, do you want to pay X amount of dollars to be on there, that would probably give us a different opinion. I don't know what we want to charge, but you know what I'm saying? Free advertising is great, so who's going to control all the work is the key, I think, that we have to look at.
Do you think that we could get a committee together to do something like that? I mean, to open it up? Because I feel like eventually we're going to have some kind of small industrial base here. We need to raise some money. We need to, obviously, our budgets are really, really tight, and I think if we're a little bit more business-friendly and savvy, I mean, we could build.
I'm not, if you wanted to get together a group of people to investigate that, I don't have any opposition to you getting a group together.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to just give them access to that one portion of the website, though, you know what I mean? And so you can't give them access to the whole website,
No.
And that may
the whole
op-
thing.
open up viruses and all. I mean, I don't think we should do that. It's,
No, I don't think that they should be able to go in and out of the website on their own, but I mean, certainly, we should give them the possibility of being seen here. There's a lot of small companies and larger companies that certainly should be recognized, seeing how the population is growing.
I think one of the concerns from the administrative end is, we're talking about processes. We were talking earlier about something, of when people go on vacation, do they need to submit a form or not submit a form? This is kind of no different. Now you're going to have to administer people applying. And then here's the thing. Do you allow everyone? What if it's a business that, is something that may be frowned upon to put on the town's website? Do you allow it on anyway because you're treating everyone equally? I mean, that's... But the concern is that, John could open up any business from his home. He could have a website. He could have, I don't know, whatever you can think of website.
Have you been on my website?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
okay.
So John has his website business, and he wants it added to the town website like everyone else is. But I think it just opens up too much. I think we're too small of an operation. Most communities don't do it. I enjoy Liz's idea that I think it gives people access to the same information on Easthampton Chamber of Commerce, Easthampton Chamber, be sure that they review their businesses, that they're still there, because you have to pay to stay on it. So you're not going to have a business that's outdated by 10 years or moved addresses or numbers don't work, because then we're going to become 411 in my office, where I get a phone call because they tried calling John's Leaf Service, and all of a sudden, the number's wrong, and they get George. So,
I understand what you're saying, and I feel like when people are looking for something in Southampton, they're not going to find it all in Southampton. They're going to have to go to Easthampton, Northampton, Westfield. So at least if you give them the option to the Easthampton link, you have so many more options, and you're still opening the door for them to support local business and for local businesses to advertise themselves. You're giving them more than just what's in Southampton by at least offering a link. I mean, if you want to put together a committee to research it more, Jackie, I'm not opposed to that. But, I mean, at this point, maybe to satisfy the needs of the people that are inquiring, we put the link on the website, and then if it evolves into something more, it evolves into something more. At least at that point, we've done something. Any other comments or questions, discussion? We are skipping over 5.3. It's been postponed until a future meeting with the highway superintendent. We have discussed the police department generator and solutions. We are moving on to a PCF from Ethan Corey for the transfer station attendant and emergency position. The regular PCF for this position is in the hands of the PQB, who meets next Thursday. The regular employee, who works on Saturdays on vacation, and coverage is needed. This emergency PCF will allow coverage for that day while the PQB reviews and approves the PCF. Art Lawrence, who's the chairman of the PQB, has no objection to this. We have it unsigned by them because it's for this Saturday. So the board, there's a note on here from Randall. The PQB is not meeting until next Thursday. He needs to cover this vacation day at the transfer station, but would like to train the application immediately. I talked to Randall about this earlier, and one of the concerns I gave him that I had was, we're not signing PCFs for other departments that aren't fully complete. And so I asked, is the transfer station covered this Saturday? And he said yes, they generally have 2 people working down there. He has 2 people working down there this week, but would like to have someone start being trained, which is the reason for this PCF. So it's up to the board what you want to do with it.
So there's coverage
There is
now.
coverage.
And the PQB meets when?
Next Thursday, and then it needs to come to us, which isn't for another 2 weeks. So the ability for him to start training somebody down there is prolonged by at least a month or so.
Can we schedule a special board meeting where 3 people come to sign off on it to get that done? Because again, if we're going to start making a lot of exceptions here.
Well, that was my concern. If you make this exception now, then you can start making it for others.
So, if somebody wants.
They meet on the 6th, and we meet on the 11th. So that's 2 weeks from now.
The 6th,
PQB meets on the 6th, that's next Thursday, and then the board meets on the 11th.
can we do a special one for next Thursday?
Well, he wants this person to work on Saturday, so if we're not going to sign
Not
it.
this Saturday, though.
Yes.
But he said he had 2 already covered.
He wants this person to train with those people.
I mean, what are we going to do?
No, one person does not. He's filling in. No, both have worked there before. Both have worked there before. So what would the board like to do?
I hate to say it, but I don't think we can make the exception for this week, but I'm willing to come into a special meeting next week after the PQB just to vote on it and sign off on it.
Is that a motion?
No, my comments.
Okay, I would do that.
So
If
you,
they need somebody in there, then you
they need somebody to, they need to train somebody. That's the issue. So,
So why can't they just wait? Why are they making
well, that's why my guess, my point,
Saturdays are busy.
if you want to, I mean, you'd have to post our meeting
Right.
for either the 7th or the 10th. That's a Friday or a Monday,
Well, why don't we just do it on the 6th?
following the PQB meeting.
Yeah, well, they'll put it right on their
Put it right on
agenda,
there
first
first.
item, and we can meet them right there and hold it right there, have them meet it, bring it in here. That'd be the only thing on our agenda.
So I'll be at that meeting. Oh, I won't be at that meeting.
Well, if
So
it's,
that means that 3 others of you will need to be there.
yeah, I can be there as long as it's 5:30 or after.
The meeting's not till 6, so if you posted your meeting at 6,
Yeah, I could be here.
so,
I think Mr. Kinnicky is coming back from out of the country.
so John can be there. I don't know when Charlie will be back. Ladies, are either of you available? I am not available. I won't be at that meeting. August 6th, next Thursday.
Next
at 6
Thursday.
o'clock.
I'm gone that whole week for training. I won't be back.
You said Charlie will be back?
We don't,
Well, he said he'd be back at the end, yeah,
Okay, well, I'll be there.
okay, so,
so we need Heather to post a meeting for the Board of Selectmen just to sign off on this PCF for August 6th at 6 o'clock in the upstairs second floor meeting room.
I would almost put just PCFs or that, because if a couple more come out of the PQB, we can react to it then.
So is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you can pass that back down. Oh. We have a approval of paid out fiscal 16 vacation, in the amount of $3,021.37 for Lori Stewart. I need a motion to approve the payout.
Is that per our PQB policies?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's per the policies, I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have an application for a one-day wine and malt license by Lenny Guyette for Conant Park for Sunday, August 2nd, from 12 to 7. The application fee, hold harmless, are submitted. Conant Park permit was authorized by Paula Mack on the Park Commission. Is there a motion to sign?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the ACO, Animal Control Officer, temporary agreement from August until October 15th. This is the ACO agreement with Westfield. It has been signed off on by Town Council. It continues the temporary agreement until the end of the quarter. The next agreement picks up where October 15th leaves off and ends the fiscal year. The intermunicipal agreement will then renew. So I have 2 here. I need a motion to approve the temporary, which goes to October 15th, and the permanent, which picks up until the end of the fiscal year. You want to take a look at these? Town council has reviewed both of them and signed off on them. But I'm happy to pass them down.
If town council has reviewed them, I'm fine.
Ladies, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
There's 2 here, and it needs all of our signatures. On the last page.
It should be dated, too.
I was just going to let Heather fill that part in.
Thanks.
We have the Council on Aging Formula Grant. It's an annual COA formula grant that we need to allow by signature. I think it's down there.
I just sent down to you?
This can only be signed in blue ink, so if someone has a blue pen, I need a motion to sign the annual COA formula grant.
think it's blue.
I need a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you have a blue pen that works?
That was working fine, no?
Oh, wait a minute.
You got it?
Nope.
What time you touch something, Liz, huh?
It worked for a second. What's the date today?
28?
We have the bill warrants when someone's ready to read those.
Okay, I move to approve the following warrants. P 16-3A in the amount of $469.90. PD 16-3A in the amount of $1411. P 16-3 in the amount of $176,527.30. PD 15-15 and 16-3 in the amount of $33,264.71. P 16-5 in the amount of $201,067.01. PD 16-5 in the amount of $38,556.20. W 16-4 in the amount of $161,762. W 15-56 in the amount of $14,907.99. That's it.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's meeting minutes from July 14th to be approved. I have not read them yet,
I have not either.
and so if we could pass over those. Our next meeting is on August, I'm all confused here, August 11th at 6 o'clock for the utility pole hearing, alcohol regulations hearing, and the discussion of the telephone system. August 25th, we're meeting at 5:30, and the fire chief's evaluation is on Thursday, August 13th, also at 5:30.
And that's the only item on that
Only
agenda.
item on the agenda. We're not adding anything to that, right? Okay. We're going to move into executive session. We will not be returning into open session per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, Number 4, to discuss strategy regarding security personnel, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. Under Number 2, to conduct collective bargaining with union personnel, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, and to approve executive session minutes, which discuss strategy with negotiation of litigation. By roll call vote.
Martin, aye.
Moulton, aye.
Sears, aye.
Cutler, aye.